Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we will try to attempt one of the AppSec challenges created by Florent Water. What we're doing today is to try to solve the challenge 2 created by him. So the code is here. If you're interested, you can actually copy and then try to run it and try to solve it yourself. So let's go to Visual Studio Code. So this is the code that I've downloaded. So let me try to explain what it does here. And later on, I'll present the solutions and see how we can actually fix this security vulnerability. So essentially at the start, it's actually using Express and Axios. So Express is actually a web application framework that's built on Node.js. So Node.js is actually provides a runtime environment that allows you to run JavaScript out of a browser. So we definitely need this Express component. On the other hand, we also need Axios. Now, Axios is another component that allows you to send HTTP requests to the server from a browser or Node.js. So we also need this. So these two components is needed in order to run this code. So as you can see, actually the whole code itself is actually run on .js, the JavaScript file. And over here, this is where we start to instantiate the Express component. So we need this to run the app. And in this app itself, there are actually a few endpoints. So first is the profile. This is where we actually get some data from the profile. So this is the profile data that we can get. So it's the name, John Doe, and the role developer. And it will return a profile data based on the JSON format. Next, let's look at this middle section of this endpoint is fetch-data. So over here, he has able to accept request and response parameter. And in this variable, you can request the query.url. So it's like URL equals to something, let's say X. So basically, this will actually take this value to query. Okay. And over here is a try and catch code. So what it does here is that it will use the Axios to actually get the URL and then send the response data. So basically this will be the response data fetch and send for URL. So it will actually go and send the GET request to get that particular URL. And if there's an error, then you will catch it over here. So that is the try and catch exception. And lastly, this particular code is just to listen on port 3000. Okay, so as you can see now my folder is actually empty. So we need to do some setup, right? Before we can actually run this code. So first, you just have to go to that folder and then run the Node package manager in it. So this is like the initialization of the Node project. You will set up all the name, some metadata, and also the dependencies. So we will do that. So we can just leave everything as default. So everything okay. So you can see here, there's a package.json file. So these are the default values that we have created. Right. So let's look at this. What's next? So we also need to install Express. So let's do that. Install Express. So once we install this, basically we can just run this like a web server for people to actually to visit and also to make HTTP requests. Okay, so we also have to install Axios. So let's do that. So once we have done with that, we can actually run it. So let's do that. Node challenge 02 question.js. So now the server is running on port 3000. So let's take a look at how it looks like on the browser. So once you have run it, this is what you get. So if you click on 3000, it says cannot get. So you need some parameter or endpoints to get this going. So first what we know is that it actually can, one of the endpoint is fetch data. So there are a few endpoints that we can take a look. So you can see here, this is the profile. So one of the endpoint is a profile value. So let's do that. Let's click on profile. So as you can see here, it actually able to return a value, which is like John Doe, developer, the name, the profile data, right? So first of all, we also have to check whether these data can be exposed publicly or not, right? So we just take it as now this is actually private. This data is private, so you cannot extract this data publicly, right? So let's look at the next value, the next endpoint, which is fetch data. So let's do that. Let's go with fetch data. And there are a few things we can do. We need to query the URL. So basically, this is from the server side to fetch some data to process it. And what we can do is actually try to query the profile endpoints, right? So let's take a look. If we do that, and let's see what will happen, right? It's returning the same value as well. Okay, so let's maybe let's go here. Then we paste again just to show you. It can fetch the data from the profile endpoint. So you can see here, it's allowing you to do so. It's able to fetch some data from the backend. So what exactly is the issue over here? So the issue here is supposedly this is a private endpoint, and if this URL is not being standardized, then it allows any URL. So as you can see here, it actually allows any URL to actually send a request. I mean to say that we may not request from the backend. We can also request from an external source. So let's say we put www.google.com. So you can see we also is able to fetch value from there. So this lies at issue, because if let's say the attacker is able to control this, is able to fetch data from an external source, he can actually use this as a proxy to send data requests to another website. So to mask their own location. That's one. Now, secondly, if it's able to query a backend domain on a specific endpoint, which is not supposed to be public, then the attacker can actually use this to enumerate and then get some sensitive information from the backend. So that's an issue. So how can we actually solve this? So first, we need to check with developer whether it can fetch data from the backend. And if it can, then what are the data you can retrieve? And it shouldn't be exposed publicly. So those private data that shouldn't be exposed publicly, we need to sanitize it. So one way of doing this is to actually set up a domain list to say that this app can only fetch resources from all these domains. And we can also sanitize the parameter as well to say that after we have checked that domain, it can only fetch data from this particular ID or from certain resources, right? So let's see how we can do that. So over here, I've created another, imported another library. Is this URL library? So what it does is that it actually separate the URL into different parts so that you can do some, you can manipulate it. So this is the function. So first we have to, so I created a function to check if this URL is allowed. Right, so I put a pass URL and then put the URL inside and then create a search parameters object with the query string of the URL. So over here, you will actually take the string of that, the query string of the URL and then put it here. Next, we also create another variable, constant variable, allowed domains. So these are the domains that we are allowing this app to access to. But of course, you can actually change it. You can change it to even the internal resources, right? So if the domains, if this whitelist does not include the host name of the pass URL, which is stated, which is in the URL query string, then you will say that domain not allowed. Then that's the first check. So the second check is that if there's some ID that you want to check as well, you also can do so. That you only can access IDs, then we will check the ID. So we will get the ID of the pass URL, and then we will do a regex check. So this is the regular expression. So first we will check whether is the ID lowercase English letters or uppercase English letters, or is it a digits, and the minimum length is 1 to maximum length 30. So this is where we will do the check. So if the ID is not, so of course the ID cannot be empty now. So this one we will check that, and then this one we will check whether it fulfills the regex rule. So if it doesn't, then we will say the invalid ID parameter. If both checks pass, then the URL is allowed. Then the user can actually go to the visit the URL. So let's give you an example. So let's do that now. Let's see whether it works. So let's see. Let's answer. Let's run that now. No. So it's running now. So let's go back to our, so it's running now. So now we are back to our page. Let's run it one more time. Okay. So let's do that. Let's say fetch data. URL equals to HTTPS. So you will check whether can you go to google.com, right? So URL is not allowed because we didn't put the ID. So if you put the ID, let's say you put 1, so you can see now it's able to fetch value from the page, from the google.com, right? So if you, let's say we put it empty, you say URL is not allowed. So if you go to twitter.com, it's not able to do so as well. Or we put the internal host name, I mean host IP. It's not able to do so as well. So you put profile. As you can see, it's not allowed as well. So this essentially is to prevent the server-side request forgery attack. So this is to prevent the attacker from actually accessing the internal resources or other external resources that is not permitted or intended by the application owner. All right. So I hope you have learned something from this, and I've learned a lot from this as well. And then I definitely check the solutions provided by Florent. So definitely do check that out. So if you like this video or appreciate, you can give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in the next video.